And hello again, YouTube. I'm back with another video. And this time I would like to make a video about risks of like heavy training and maybe risk management a little bit. Because when you train heavy, there is of course a good reward for that, but there's always a risk which comes together with it, right? So I would like to discuss that thing a little bit, and I just have that thought in my mind, so I thought I would talk about it now. Didn't really think it about too much, so it might end up rambling a little bit, but bear with me. So okay, what I was trying to say is that you keep seeing people train in different ways. Maybe trying to be a little bit more careful whenever I do high range dynamic movements. I would maybe not go that heavy. I would still do the heavy stuff, but it would be very static, trying to be a bit safer. I would choose the exercises which are more natural, maybe. For example, I would not do pronation. Let's say if I grip something and I have to turn it, I would not do something which is like super heavy and I have to turn it and the wrist joint is maybe a little bit in danger. I would be a little bit careful of some of those things, just to make sure that I don't get any bad injuries, because arm wrestling strength doesn't really come in one day. It takes a bit of time to develop it. It takes a bit of time for joints to get used to the thing, and maybe slowly strength get stronger. Also tendons, and just everything takes a bit of time to lock up properly, right? So doesn't matter how hard you train, it will still take a while. So maybe it's better to choose a level of risk which will make sure that you will survive that type of training and you will not get injured, because injuries might really fuck your career up pretty badly. So let's take a couple of examples. For example, let's talk about some arm wrestling team. Let's say it can be any kind of country. Maybe more. Maybe let's take some country from like Eastern Europe or Asia or whatever. Because sometimes, whenever a government supports a sport a lot, the coaches would of course like to bring medals, like let's say buff world championship medals back home, because in those cases they will get rewarded as well. So we really care about getting making as many champions as possible. And they don't really, the coach would not always really care about the athlete, about the specific athlete doing well over a long time, right? At the end, they just need a couple of these athletes to survive this tough training, and in that way they would get the medals, so they would get rewarded, right? And what ends up happening is that maybe the training system is actually quite tough, and let's say maybe only like 30% of the people survive that system with no injuries, no bad injuries, and they can continue continue a career. Meanwhile, maybe the 70% of the guys are just dropping out and getting injured just because of the training being a bit too brutal. So what I'm trying to say, that if you want to care about your own specific body and health, maybe you should not necessarily copy what's on the internet. Maybe some of the training systems are a bit too brutal, a bit too risky, and you you would have a pretty high chance to get injured, right? Yeah, so to me, like, this kind of risk management is quite an important topic, interesting topic, I would say, because as you can imagine, you can easily make a training system which is very dangerous. For example, you keep seeing these very big guys jumping on some juice and hitting very high numbers in some crazy lifts, and from time to time you do see them getting injured, right? Biceps completely tears off, or whatever other injury happens. And if they get lucky, if the juice is able to keep the body strong and they don't get an injury, then of course they get a huge reward. They are super strong because they did risk a lot. They kept lifting these huge weights. So there's always a reward, of course, for that, but it is risky. And what else? So yeah, basically I'm trying to say that my way of training is a bit more concentrated on me, on making sure that I don't really fail and I don't get injured, and I can do it for a long time. And I feel like maybe I will reach my goals a bit slower, not that quickly, of course, but at least the chance of me succeeding at the end is maybe a bit higher. Wait a second, I wanted to mention a couple more things, but I need to remember, what was it? Maybe I'll make a pause. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention is the interesting thing where someone who is very new in the sport might actually be able to go a bit harder, like heavier lifts. Yeah, heavy dynamic lifts might be possible just because we are still at quite a low power level. So it's difficult for them to break the joints and tendons accidentally. So some new guy, he might be actually, lift a higher percentage of his maximum static number. But as soon as you get a bit stronger and stronger, whenever you progress in your power level, suddenly you might need to think about reducing those numbers a little bit, or percentage-wise at least, because maybe you are reaching the point where 50% of your maximum completely dynamically maybe is already dangerous, where maybe before 70% of your maximum weight while you do it dynamically was not that bad, because overall you were just not that strong, you couldn't lift that much, so 70% was kind of fine with joints, and everything else didn't complain at that point. So keep in mind that maybe you need to adjust your weights depending on how much your joints can really carry, right? Anyways, okay, I guess let's just summarize the thing. So my advice is very simple: just be very careful with some of the stuff that you see on the internet. Maybe it's something which is too risky, maybe you don't want to push yourself that much, because you might get injured, and injuries are not great. Okay, thank you guys for today. See you next time.